Good people, today we are going to look at the phylum Porifera. The Porifera is the very first phylum of the Animalia. And it's also the simplest form of life. If you look there, phylum Porifera, only cellular level of differentiation. We'll come back to that in a moment's time. The Porifera, the name Porifera comes from the fact that the organism is full of holes, full of pores, hence the name Porifera. Some people refer to it as Porifera, other people refer to it as Porifera. I call it Porifera. There are a few examples. We're going to look at the examples in the video in a bit later, but they are in common language known as the sponges. Now, you will probably not know what is meant by sponges, but if you have a bathroom sponge, you know, a sponge with which you wash yourself? That is the same sponges. Now, 100 years ago, when we did not have the technology we have now, sponges used to be harvested from the ocean floor. And the rich people could afford these sponges, and they were used to bath or for people to wash themselves. Obviously, they were decimating the seafloor, and from there onwards, as technology developed, they started to use artificial sponges. When we look at the sponges, I've already said the body consists of many spores. And then important, only cellular level of differentiation has been reached. Which means there are no tissues, no specialization of any part of the body. You cannot call this part of the body a this or that part a that. Everything is basically the same. Although there are different types of cells, there are no tissues at all. They are asymmetrical. What is asymmetrical again, Kevin? You cannot cut it into any two halves to give you two identical parts. It is not possible. It does not have any specific shape. Over and above that, it has no cephalization. Benny, what is cephalization again?
Sensory.
Is your name Benny? Yes, please, Benny. No concentration of sensory organs and nerve cells towards the front end of the body. And that, remember that the moment when we have an organism that is bilaterally symmetrical, that organism is cephalized. If you're not bilaterally symmetrical, you are not cephalized. And this organism has no cephalization. No nervous system, no muscle tissue, therefore it cannot move at all. So it's a very, very simple type of organism. To such an extent, obviously because it cannot move, it must be bentic, or as it says here, sessile. Sessile means it remains in one position for the whole of their lives. Bentic is just another word for sessile. Reproduction. These organisms are hermaphrodites, and you must remember now this word hermaphrodite. It's a new word. And if you're a hermaphrodite, you have both male and female reproductive organs on the same organism. That is usually with organisms that have trouble finding other organisms of the same type. Lindsay, of the same type. You understand? But now, what happens is, to prevent self-fertilization, what do? They ensure that the male and the female gametes do not ripen at the same time, Norman. So therefore, it's impossible for self-fertilization. And we know from our study of genetics that self-fertilization will not lead to genetic variety. The fertilized eggs swim into a free-swimming, change into a free-swimming larva. Once it finds a good substrate, it will attach itself, and then it will become sessile again, like the parent. Every organism needs a role in creation. And one of the things that it does need is it needs to have a place in the food chain. It can either be a producer or it can be a consumer. And because these organisms do not contain chloroplasts, they are consumers. They cannot photosynthesize. So they are basically filter feeders. So many sponges are therefore primary consumers, therefore food for secondary consumers. Other fish will come and bite pieces of it. Some form a habitat for small organisms like shrimps and small fish. You find small fish that will live inside a sponge for the whole of its life. Some of them carry photosynthetic organisms, and then they live together, and the one gives the other one place to stay in exchange for food. If we could all watch this video quickly. Switch off.